So we are joined this evening by John and Kay. A huge thank you again to you both for joining us this evening. So John and Kay are from the Seek Peace team who work across the world to support churches in very hostile areas. So we at MMN have partnered with them to support a particular project in Lebanon, where they've been offering healthcare services to vulnerable groups there. So John and Kay, we're really looking forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Grev, for having us. It's a real privilege to be with you this evening. I'm Kay.
I'm John. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you. And we are the founders of a small ministry called Seek Peace. We have partners in five different partners in six different regions of the world. And one of those regions is Lebanon. And we're sharing with you tonight a little bit about our partners, Al Shabiba Risala, who are based in Beirut in a community called Borj Hamoud. And we wanted to share some of the things that have been happening, a little bit about, well, can you see this screen? Is this being shared? This is. Okay, good. A little bit about us, a little bit about our partners in Lebanon, and a little bit about the work of the medication distribution project that you guys have been partnering with us in over the last several months, and where that came from. So if we just jump to the next slide.
We'll do that.
Okay,
There we go.
so Al Shabiba Risala, this is a picture of their team based in Borj Hamoud. They are a group based that are connected with YWAM, so Youth with a Mission, and they're set up as not only a YWAM base, but also a peace center, which is designed to try and bring youth together from different parts of the Borj Hamoud community to try and do cooperative sports together and other sort of community initiatives, and they have a particular focus on trauma healing. And just I think by way of context, it might be good to give these guys a bit of an idea of like the context of Borj Hamoud.
Yeah, so Borshmud is a suburb in the east of Beirut, and it's always been a suburb that it started off as a refuge for people fleeing the Armenian genocide many years ago. And since then, it's been a place where whenever there's been conflict in the Middle East, which there's been a lot of, it's been a place where internally displaced people, but also refugees from surrounding countries like Syria have also come to. So it's an incredibly diverse community, with Shias there, Sunnis there, Maronite Christians. There's a religious group called the Druze there as well. So it's incredibly diverse in terms of religion and also nations as well, and nations that have a checkered history. So a lot of the time when there's tensions within Lebanon, it is a suburb that experiences those tensions locally as well. Um,
Al Shabiba Rasala was started by a couple called Rami and Rula, and they're a wonderful couple. They have a really great mix of a sense of God's calling for their life to disciple people
yeah.
from the region God's planted them in, but also to do so in a way that brings life-giving and long-term sustainable care to their community.
Mm.
And we got to know Rami and Rula through some study that John was doing.
Yeah, so I got to know Ruler first, but then spent a lot of time with Rami as well in the last year, 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got an incredible story. Maybe I'll tell it as well because it shows how his faith and also the place where he's from has also shaped what they're doing to this day. So he was born into a family in Bushamud with a Muslim father and a Christian mother. So his identity from an early age was already, he wasn't sure what he was. Was he a Muslim? Was he a Christian? And he remembers taking shelter in the bathroom of their house as bombs were dropping in their neighborhood, seeing the fear in his parents' eyes, and not really understanding how to process all of that. And then at the age of 12, he also experienced hardship where there were two children in the family, him and his sister, and he was asked by his parents to make a decision about whether who goes to school because they didn't have enough fees to send both of them. So he decided he would drop out at the age of 12 and find a job to help support the family while his sister would go to school. Um, So he remembers this sense of frustration, lack of identity, and anger at the world around him, which is very understandable. But then at the age of 15, he came across some YWAMers, and he heard the gospel for the first time, really, in a way that he heard in his heart. And he received Christ at that time, and his issues of identity was suddenly solved, and he knew he was a child of God. And he remembers holding on to this verse, which was, "In this world you'll have trouble, but don't fear, for I've overcome the world." And his journey with YWAM took him to different parts of the world, to Northern Ireland, where he met people that we know in common. And then he also went to South Africa, parts of the world which have had a checkered or have had a difficult, complicated mix of conflict and faith as well. And he definitely knew people that had taken life in the name of God. And so he cried out to God at that stage and asking what it was all about. Why is this happening? How do we make sense of all these things that we experience? And he remembers God telling him that, "Rami, I love all my children, but I'm looking for my peacemakers. Will you be one of my peacemakers?" And he said yes at that stage, and it took him back to his community where he grew up in Bushamud. And there, him and Rula and the team that they have there, you can see the photo of it there. They start a lot of projects in this. They have a peace center in Bushamud, and they run a lot of sports programs for kids. You can see another photo there of kids playing football. And they really are trying to build peace within this difficult community. They're the only team in the area that has a football team made up of different religions. People within Lebanon, they stick very closely to their nationality, to their religious sects as well. So it's amazing what they're doing. And Rami always says it very simply. He says, whenever someone comes through the door of our peace center, we disciple them. We teach them where to put their identity in Christ, and we model to them what that looks like in life, and how that informs how we treat ourselves and how we treat others as well. So a remarkably simple faith of discipleship in a really complicated part of the world. Yeah. And do we have another slide here as well? It's been odd. Okay, reminded me. Yeah, the miraculous part of this story, which I was working towards, is they were renting this building in Bushamud to run these peace programs. And they said to their landlord, they said, we feel like God's calling us to buy a place that we can run these projects out of permanently. And so the landlord took them round to different parts of Bushamud. And Rami says when he took them to this one building in particular, he broke down crying because he realized this building that they were being offered to buy was the school that he was forced to leave when he was 12. And they were able to raise the funds and buy this building, which they now use as their peace center. It's a beautiful building in the center of Bushamud. And people that were forced, youth that were in a similar situation that he was in when he was 12, he's now discipling them and showing them where they can put their identity and teaching them what it means to live like to follow Christ and let that shape our lives.
Yeah. And I think it was also significant because that moment for them was a real sense of like confirmation from God that he was with them and that he was going before them. And it helped to like solidify their faith to be able to take such a big step and start this peace center in a permanent place. And just as that happened, so within like 6 months of them like securing this building and doing the work on this building, then we began partnering with them because we were really excited about what their peace center was doing, what they were trying to do in Bournemouth. And we jumped on board with them to try and, because our work alongside ministries like Al Shabiba Risala is to try and come alongside and work out how we can measure and how we can approach how peace is measured locally. So when we say, what are your beliefs? What is the theology that you're like working with? What's your discipleship model? What are the programs that you're running? And we take them through a process which we call a theory of change to try and work out, okay, what are the assumptions that you have that peace and that change is going to come about in your community. And then based on that baseline, we then help to like co-design initiatives with them to try and see that achieved. But before we could do any of that work, the period of unrest in late 2024, really everything like just was completely amplified, and their peace center had to be completely changed from being this community hub to becoming like this refuge for people that were fleeing southern Lebanon in particular, and the attacks that were happening, the drone strikes that were happening in and around Beirut and further south in southern Lebanon. And during this time, you guys partnered with us to be able to provide them with an emergency grant. We were able to send £11,000, and £3,000 of that was from you guys, and it was apportioned to being able to provide medical supplies and medical intervention needs for the people that were not only people that were being housed in their peace center, but also in the surrounding community and through other networks that they had where they found need through other community and local government groups. And so during this time, they completely changed the function of the Peace Centre. They have brought in over 60 people and families, and from all different backgrounds, so Christians, Muslims, Shiites, Sunnis, as John mentioned, Maronites, very diverse mix of people. And at this time, they became like a local emblem in the community for housing such diverse people in a time of like significant political unrest. And there was a lot of fear, at this time when we were talking, when we would like, be speaking with our team there and talking with Rami and Rula, how can we pray with you? What do you need? They were just like, our hearts are breaking for our team, because we really want, God has like put us here, but we know that we have to dig deep to be able to keep giving and to keep pastoring people in such a volatile situation.
Yeah, even when I was there earlier this year, there was still a couple of drone strikes. But there was also thunderstorms at the same time, and the rolling thunder and the lightning. Um, Also on nights, people weren't able to tell what it was. Like, was that lightning or was that a drone strike? And just the level of anxiety you could feel in people of not knowing, what tomorrow brings, or whether they'll get through the night. So yeah, difficult time. But for them to be able to provide relief and be this peace for other people in the storm, yeah, was a powerful witness.
And we were really excited to be able to join them in that time. We'd already been partnering with them, but we felt that this was significant. It was a significant moment for them to, to play that emblematic city on a hill role at a time and bear witness to Jesus in really, tangible, compassion orientated ways. And part of that became the work that they now are doing as well with medication distribution. And that became part of that's something that they didn't really anticipate. It wasn't part of their original model. Like we mentioned, the majority of what they do is in and around youth and sports clubs, but they've always had this sort of trauma healing, trauma counseling edge to the work that they do, because they just see it as such a fundamental issue. And as they've sort of pushed into that further and further, they've seen that there are a lot of isolated groups within their community that struggle to, not only are they hard to access because they're sort of experiencing exclusion or isolation, but there's a lot of medication and physical needs that are hard to access. And so this medication distribution project has become a part of what they're offering in terms of what they do within the community to share the love of Jesus.
Yeah, so when I was there earlier in the year, we were able to, it was a bit of a pause for them as they transition from being a refuge center to returning to being a peace center within the community. So we sat with them and worked through the design of what they felt God was calling them to after the unrest, and moving forwards into how do they respond to God's calling them to be Christian peacemakers within the community of Bushamud. So yeah, we spent 3 days working with them on developing a plan for their approach after that, which looked very messy, as you can see on the screen here to begin with. Working with different groups, so working with families, working with youth from all different religious backgrounds to address trauma, but also to build trust, to try and disciple people, to help reduce prejudice, to help youth stick with education as well, is a big one for them. But a lot of that does pivot around the trust that they're able to build in the community and to create this peace center as a safe space for lots of different people in the community. So this is a slightly neater version of it that we digitized. So don't worry if you can't read all the words to this. But you can see the area that I've circled here in orange. This is where the house visits and the medical outreach comes into play. A lot of this is to build trust. They have a lot of youth coming to their sports events and a lot of their education events. Um, but they're also wanting to reach the families of these young people. So a lot of the way they build trust with these families is to do house visits and to be able to make a tangible difference in people's lives as well, to be able to support them with medical outreach. So that's been a massive help for them to be able to show that they're not just here to say God bless you, but they're also there to help people in a really practical way, which we often say in our work in different parts of the world. These are parts of the world that the gospel has been preached mouth to ear, like many times. The gospel is there in a real present way in churches. There's only so loud you can preach it verbally, the gospel, but a lot of these projects, they preach it through how they model Christ's love to people in the community. So the gospel can be witnessed powerfully in how it's lived out. And these guys, they embody that so well in this really diverse community. They show Christ's love in a really practical way. And the medical aspects of this fit in. We help them fit it into their overall strategy and how they try and build peace within this part of Lebanon. And then this is the even more simplified version of their theory of change of how they feel God's calling them to build peace within their community.
And you guys have been a part of this as well. So after the period in late 2024 where things were very unsettled, and you guys provided a small emergency grant towards medication, the team there in Borj Hamoud were able to try and imagine how this could be scaled a little bit and how it could reach more people and how it could fit in a more creative and intentional way with the wider work that they're doing through their Peace Centre. And so thank you very much. You guys provided us with £9,500 to be able to design this project and then to resource this project and to be able to distribute this medication to over 50 recipients with, again, either really hard to access medication or really hard to afford medication. Often cancer or hypertension or cholesterol management drugs. But on top of that, a real priority has been trying to find people within the sphere of the centre and the youth that are connected, whose families or, disparate communities are vulnerable and hard to reach. And how can those people be prioritised? And then how can this be an intervention that has an effect that draws them into a greater trust for the wider work of Al Shabiba Risala? They have other programs as well. So they're increasingly doing work with families. So they do a lot of like women's groups and they do a lot of like, I don't know, like skills workshops or like cooking and crafts, and they do like counseling and trauma focused creative outlets. But they are always trying to think, how can we draw more people within the community into a relationship with one another from a diverse set of backgrounds, and how can that bear witness to Jesus? And this medication distribution project has become an essential and really exciting part of that.
Yeah, and at Seek Peace, it's really excited us as well for how because peace building would intersect with lots of other different areas. So we talked about trauma healing, talked about medical stuff as well, sports as well. There's often projects involving a lot of sports, bringing people together from different backgrounds. Other projects we're involved in as well in Nigeria, a computer center project which brings youth and community elders together from different backgrounds to focus on how to support youth with getting extra skills, but also teaching them peace building skills, teaching them conflict transformation skills in communities when conflict within the country is escalating. Often these communities also mimic those events that go on as well. So
That's an exciting project actually, because the target of that one is that there's a shared pain point between these two volatile dominant community groups, being Islamic and Christian groups. And this happens in different regions across the middle belt of Nigeria. But the shared pain point is that there are a lot of youth who have either never been able to go through school or finish school, and there's wide unemployment. And so training them with computer training skills, it creates this opportunity for a shared economic pain point to be resolved. And that's just another example of how, even though peace building can seem intangible, when paired with something like intentionally, like a skill or like economic or medication distribution, and designed well together, that there's real possibility there for the programs to have an overall impact on local peacefulness, and for that to be done in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, and especially in communities where it's quite hard to build trust because there's lots of suspicion going on, especially if you're a group that is known to be religious, there can be a lot of suspicion attached to that. So to be able to show love in a really practical way, paired with medical mission, that's a really important way or a really valuable way to be able to build trust with people. Yeah, so these are the different parts of the world that we work in. And if you're interested to learn more about the work of Seek Peace, we recently put together this report called What We Do, because people sometimes ask us, what do you do? So here we go, what we do. So yeah, you can scan that and look at that as well if you want to. And I think that's all from us. So thank you so much for listening to us. Yeah, thanks for having us here. It's a privilege to be able to share all this with you. So thank you.
And thank you so much for the prayers that you have, that you've partnered with us in, with Al Shabiba Risala, and for the other ministries that you support around the world. I think it's really significant, the way that people intercede in prayer and stand and encourage people from all over the world facing hardship, but doing so in a way that represents Jesus and remains consistent with his character. And so thank you for that. We really appreciate it, and it means a lot.
Thank you both so much. That was absolutely fascinating. I absolutely love the testimony that you shared as well, and just hearing like how God's promise goes full circle. That was just incredible to hear that. But yeah, I've been really interested about your work, so it's lovely. John and Kay have written an article for our upcoming magazine, so it's lovely like seeing you guys being so passionate about it, seeing it come to life. So it's really good. So thank you so much. I just wondered, has anyone got any questions for John and Kay about things that they've talked through this evening? If you'd like to unmute, if you've got any questions at all for them, they're happy to answer now.
What language do you speak in Lebanon?
Well, we're very lazy English speakers, so they speak English to us. But yeah, they're very good at speaking Arabic and French as well. But yeah, no, we speak English. We're trying to learn French, but yeah, mostly just English and a little bit of Hausa, which is where we spent many years in Jos, Nigeria, and we learned a little bit of Hausa. But again, an English-speaking country, so yeah, we keep getting away with it.
I was just going to ask a question about, obviously it's a very mixed religious community that they're working in. How open can they be in kind of sharing their Christian faith? I know obviously they're doing it through actions. How much can they say in terms of word ministry, or is that kind of something that comes as a result of just building relationships with people?
Yeah, they can be very open with how they share. Yeah, and they do. They run lots of youth alpha courses as well. So anyone wants to shows an interest, they invite them along to the youth alpha courses. They run youth groups as well. On a Friday night, I was part of their youth group, which went till 2 o'clock in the morning. So they're very open with that stuff. I think the tricky dynamic can be when someone from a Muslim background wants to convert, then it can add complications for the whole family and the community. But yeah, Lebanon is very religiously diverse. There's a lot of Christians there as well. So yeah.
And during the time when they were established as like a safe haven, they would run like prayer meetings every day, and they had beautiful testimonies of like Muslim people and Jewish people being like, oh, we've never experienced anything like this before, you know, like just being invited into Christian prayer and yeah, and singing and worship. And I think that they came away pleasantly surprised by encountering Christian worship. So yeah, they're definitely very open. And I think that they're not like they don't have to hide or anything their religious
Mhm.
affiliation. They just try to be incredibly authentic with people about how their faith guides their sense of love and relationship for others.
Yeah.
And I think that that authenticity is pretty, well, to us, it's very contagious, like in them. And I think that that is a contagious part of their ministry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think Lebanon's quite unique in that part of the world for how open you can be because it is quite religiously diverse. I think even within their politics as well, it's enshrined in their constitution that they are Christ. I think the prime minister is always Christian, and the leader of the house is Shia, and the president is. I've got these the wrong way around, but there's quite a large Christian population in Lebanon. And it's possible to be very open with it.
Do they have problems with Bilal in that area, or are they sort of, I mean, they're in the south, definitely, aren't they?
Yeah, oh, it's fascinating. So the southern suburbs of the city are all Shia, and that's where a lot of Hezbollah are. And when there was lots of drone strikes within Lebanon, most of them took place in those Shia neighborhoods in the southern part of Beirut.
Mm.
And when they had this refuge center welcoming people in, they had to do lots of background checks to make sure they weren't welcoming people in with links to Hezbollah. Yeah,
It's a very scary time.
yeah, it was because yeah, even when I was there, people would often point out how um, Israel knew exactly where everyone was at all times, and if they wanted to get you with the drone strike, they would. So yeah, a lot of people for them that was comforting because they didn't feel like they had any links to Hezbollah. But at the same time, strikes would take. Well, there's collateral damage involved in these things as well. So yeah, a nerve-wracking time for people.
Can you just describe a little bit more about how the distribution thing works in terms of how often do they visit people? Does it depend on the kind of condition that they have? Can you just kind of how does it work practically on a kind of a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, they meet with people regularly. I think everyone's on a schedule, and so based on what their medication schedule is and how frequently they need to, whether they can bulk. I think their preference isn't to kind of bulk provide medication to them because they want to promote regular contact with them as much as possible. So they would be in their lives, you know, every week or every other week as much as they could. Not at all times, but you know, at specific points in the year when they have to kind of organize themselves. So yeah, it's a regular ongoing distribution plan and program that they have.
Yeah, and largely identified through networks that they have, pre-existing networks through, parents of kids that come through the sports programs and the other programs that they run as well. So yeah, often being able to identify new needs as they're going and visiting the houses of
Yeah.
people in the project anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. They really like the personal. And when we were thinking about structuring this differently, like maybe doing a clinic out of their center, they all kind of, after thinking and reflecting on it, pivoted and said we don't want to do it that way, because we want this to be an opportunity where we can have an ongoing reason and an ongoing opportunity to meet with people in their own space and
Yeah.
provide that encouragement.
And it's
Yeah.
a honoring thing, I think, for people as well to be able to go into their homes. And a big part of what they do is try and encourage certain attitudes and behaviors amongst youth that they work with. So being able to visit the homes as well and seeing how the homes are set up and yeah, how the family situation is as well is important to them.
Great. Thank you both so much. We'd really just love to take some time to pray for you now, if that's okay. So we're just going to take 10 minutes to just break out into rooms and just pray for John and Kay and just the things that they've chatted through this evening, if that's okay.